Kazuma-sama, the Reaper's assassin. I feel as though I'm in a nightmare. I can hardly believe it either, but on the other hand, Kazuma isn't in the habit of making up stories. I have such a terrible sense of foreboding. If something awful has happened to Judge Jigoku, then I feel as though things will only spiral further and further out of control. I felt it from the moment I stepped into the courthouse this morning. That strange sensation that we were careering toward a foregone conclusion. Well, in the worst case, we might only have 30 minutes left. Unfortunately, though, I don't think there's anything we can do but wait now. We're out of options. Actually, there may be one last hand we can play. Or rather, one last ear. Of course! The little Mr. Sholmes that Iris gave us. If for some reason you completely run out of options in the trial today, then just pull this little Hurley's ears as hard as you possibly can. Perhaps now is the time. What should I do? Pull Hurley's ears or not? Pull! Here it goes then. I'm going to do it. Good luck, Mr. Nahodo. No looking back. Heave!
Ow!
That scream. Tell it, Mr. Sholmes. Mr. Sholmes? Where are you?
Here, my dear fellow, here!
It's the felt doll talking! Pull the ears again, Miss Nahodo, as hard as you can. Alright then, I'll put all my strength into it. Heave! Ow! Please, my dear fellows, you need not pull my ear off.
Mr. Sholmes, where are you?
Myself and my trusty partner are presently in the first-class cabin area of the SS Groose.
The SS Groose?
She left over last night after the final pieces of cargo were loaded. We are currently docked at Dunkirk, but due to be underway again in half an hour.
You've taken a ship to France?
Please, even with my athletic prowess, I would struggle to jump the Straits of Dover. After we left Baker Street last night, we hurried by cab to the station and by train to the port, in order to board this vessel in time.
So, you mean you already worked it out? That the steamship was where everything really took place?
Mr. Naruhodo, pray, what is my name?
Herlock Sholmes, world-famous great detective.
Recited to perfection. Well done.
You're a genius, Mr. Sholmes. That's the only word for it.
Ow, 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 ow! Miss Susato, gently with this genius's ear, please.
Oh my, I'm ever so sorry.
If I may, Sholmes? Ah, there you are, Mikotoba. You may remember that it was, in fact, I who made the connection to the SS Groose. At Scotland Yard yesterday, when we examined that notebook and I recalled my steamship ticket. Ha 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 ha! But of course it was, my dear fellow. And not once did I controvert that fact. I merely had our court-bound companions under my name. Yes, you did, didn't you?
We've just entered a recess. The trial resumes in 30 minutes from now. And if we're unable to present any new leads, then I'm afraid to say...
Do not fret, please. It's for precisely that purpose that my partner and I have made this journey. I have no doubt that we shall have welcome news for you within the half hour.
Thank you, Mr. Sholmes. That would be wonderful.
Until later, then.
Yes, you'll be hearing from us if you're not in touch first.
Ow, 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 ow! I shan't be hearing anything if you keep tugging my ear in that mindless fashion. Whatever was the idea behind making a receiver operate in that way in the first place, Sholmes? Why the deuce would I know? It's Iris' invention, not mine. Whilst I know how much you enjoy being the hero of the hour, Sholmes, we have but half that now before Gruce puts the siege again. If we don't conclude our investigations rapidly, we shall find ourselves in Naples before long. There are times, Mikotoba, when you make a surprising amount of sense. So, let us begin. First class cabin number 2. Yes, this is the one. But I don't believe an investigation of the cabin is going to be plain sailing. That crewman standing in front of the door is an angry-looking fellow. Why are you loitering here? Who are you? My dear fellow, do you not recognize a world-famous great detective when you see one? The question really ought to be, who are you? Do you not recognize world-traveling great sailor Tishkin Stroganoff when you see? Chicken Stroganoff, got it. Great detective? Ha! I don't think so. Do you see that, Mikotoba? It would appear that this man is a devoted follower of mine. Goodness me, is that a tattoo? That says Sholmes? I must say, while such an adoration is flattering, naturally it does leave me a little cold. What are you talking about? Leave now! How distressing. My loyal devotee knows me only by name and not by appearance. And yet, I already know a great deal about you, sir. You have a brother, I believe. Like yourself, he's a shipman. Currently traveling the world aboard a Russian steamship, in fact. Wait, how could you know this? Elementary, my dear Mikotoba. I'm sure it was. 3 days ago, I was bound for London aboard the ship, you see. We're looking for one of my fellow passengers, a man by the name of Jigoku. There is no one with his name on board. But we know that he purchased a ticket for passage. Ah, you mean Easterman. He left ship 2 hours ago. Here at Dunkirk, he said something about emergency, I think. What? Are you sure? So Seisho's realized that we're after him, has he? His cabin is the one behind you. We should like to investigate, please. No! I have orders not to let even mouse inside. Mikotoba, be a good man and draw the sailor's attention away, would you? Make up some excuse so he has to leave the area. Doesn't Great Detective see that even sailors have ears both left and right? Curses! The plan is ruined! And you have only yourself to blame, I'm afraid, Sholmes. Forget it. Cabin door is locked. Even if I am not here, you cannot get inside. Mikotoba, I'm sure you haven't forgotten my special talent, have you? Opening any lock? Within a mere 5 seconds. So if you'd be so kind as to afford me the requisite time, old friend, in your typically accommodating manner. How can I refuse such a typically unappealing request, old friend? So I need to distract that burly sailor for 5 seconds, do I? Good man. So, the game is afoot. Wonder what that does. The switch for the electrical lights. Perhaps if I were to turn off the lights, the crewmen wouldn't be able to see what we were doing. Flag it! Ah! What is happening? Where is light? Now, Sholmes, now! Nobody there. That was a close shave. Quite a knack you have, stumbling so violently in an apparently empty corridor. Do be quiet, Sholmes. I have to think of another approach. Okay, so that did not quite work. What about the alarm? This would appear to be an alarm bell. All hell would break loose if that were to ring. The whole crew would know about it. And here goes then. Pardon me in advance. Ding-a-ling-a-ling! You! What are you doing? If we were at sea, that would be very bad problem.
What's going on down there? See if it's strong enough. Report at once.
Sorry, sir. Nothing to report. It was just stupid trick. No, not by me. By world famous... no, as I told you. Now, Sholmes, now! Done. Not even in 5 seconds, eh? Well, don't stand there copying my brilliance, Mikotoba. In we go! Oh, yes. Good gracious. It would appear that the occupant of this cabin did indeed disembark rather hurriedly. Those clothes on the floor there, they're Seishiro's without question. Well, it seems we are just a little too late. Yes, by about 2 hours. Still, whilst we're here, we should investigate thoroughly. There may be, well, 2 hours worth of clues to find in here. But that burly crewman may return at any moment, Sholmes. Indeed, he may. Which makes this all the more thrilling. Alright. Cabin door. According to the report I was given, Naruhodo was concealing himself in Asagi's wardrobe. Indeed, he was, and it was of a similar size to this one. Ah, you must climb inside yourself, my dear fellow. What? Whatever for? It was the sign of my first faithful meeting with Mr. Naruhodo. You can experience the moment for yourself now, complete with my dramatic rhetoric. Come on now, in you go. This will only take a moment. Really, Sholmes, surely you can just tell me what you said. Well, I understand some brilliant remark and open the wardrobe to reveal the stowaway murderer. I think I'll just read about it in The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes. Okay, what is that? There's a speaking tube here. Look, though it's been stopped with some cloth, so the voice of the crewmen on the bridge aren't an annoyance, I suppose. Or indeed, so that the voices in this cabin aren't heard elsewhere. Could something have happened in here that was for no one else's ears, do you think? Either that, or it could be to prevent snakes from entering. That's really become a favorite case of yours, hasn't it? Yeah, man knows what he likes. The wall is slightly different color just here, do you see? Indeed, what you have observed arises when a frame that has been hanging for some time is removed. Perhaps your friend is an art thief. Now there's a bold deduction worthy of a great detective, I'm sure. He may very well be the elusive thief who has been plaguing France's galleries of late. I think perhaps we should focus our attentions elsewhere, Sholmes. Don't you? That outline on the wall, I feel as though I might have spotted something of a similar shape and size elsewhere. Gee, I wonder, could it be this exact thing? These are the rules of passage. Passengers must not keep weapons or other dangerous objects in their cabins. Pets are also strictly forbidden. Additionally, there are severe punishments for stowing away in wardrobes and or travel cases. I feel the rules have increased since I last read them. Probably just my imagination. What about the fact that they're not straight on the wall? Doesn't that strike you? You may be right. Probably just your imagination, though. A trifle. And you know what I always say, Mikotoba. There is nothing important about trifles. It's probably just my imagination, but I think that might be slightly off. That's a very sizable trunk indeed. Seishiro is partial to all things large. And a rather clumsy fellow if he failed to notice he left that behind. Perhaps he left it on purpose. It's lighter than you might think, but still a hindrance to a speedy escape. Pity. It's locked, so we can't look inside. Surely 5 seconds from now the situation will be quite different, though. Sadly not. It has a 7-digit combination lock. And I'm not in a morose enough mood to work through all the combinations at present. Fair enough. Plenty of reading material to keep passengers occupied on the long sea voyages. I found the mixture of classic literature and easy reading to be most satisfactory, I must say. Whoever stopped this bookcase was a hopeless heretic. There's no copy of The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes, my dear fellows. I'm afraid it's just me, but no, you're quite right. More blasphemous than overlooking the Bible. I shall leave a copy behind. I just happen to have one with me. You're a true missionary of the Church of the Great Detectives, aren't you? Alright, well, there's that. Quite the exquisite glass, I must say. See here how it... Is something wrong, Sholmes? You suddenly trailed off. Ice, Mikotoba, ice! What opulence the first-class passengers enjoy. Chilled drinks! Pardon? Could it be that this steamship is equipped with an electrical refrigerated cold room, do you think? Well, it is a luxury liner after all. They have enormous refrigerators for storing all sorts of lavish produce as well as ice. On our voyage from Japan, we enjoyed culinary delights from all over the world. Suddenly, Mikotoba. The sight of you is making my mouth water. I haven't taken on the flavor of the food I ate, you know. That's weird. This is the waste paper basket. Look, and there's still rubbish inside. Indeed? Then let us pry. I've discovered recently that I have penchant for exploring the contents of those waste paper baskets. I sincerely hope only for your work. Huh. Here we have a notice issued to passengers from the 3 days ago. 3 days ago? The night before we arrived in London, then. When I was still aboard myself. Following departure from the port of Dunkirk, all crew members are getting interrupted by things. Yes, there was an evacuation drill. I remember now. For our safety and security, all first-class passengers were constantly under the watchful eye of the crew. So it was a welcome relief to have some privacy for once. Okay. Evacuation drill generally has been entered to the court record. Notice about practice evacuation should be carried out by the SS crew of the Groose the night before the ship arrived in Dover. It was found at Judge Jigoku's cabin. You are still here? Ah, Abel Seaman Stroganoff. Hello again. I was beginning to think you'd never materialize. You are waiting for me? Of course. I was expecting you to burst in with a hearty Russian profanity far sooner. I was in trouble with Captain because of trick you played before. Poor innocent chicken. It is all your fault. Ship is leaving port soon. Get off, now! Of course, we shall disembark presently, my dear fellow. But first, there is something that must be done. What are you talking about? Why, naturally. The debunking of your deceit and the bearing of the truth. Kakoi? I'm afraid I see through your lies. For one thing, Mr. Jigoku has not yet left this vessel at all. Ah! And for another, my dear Seaman Stroganoff, you know exactly where the man is, even as we speak, don't you? How can you... Good gracious, Sholmes. You mean you've worked it out? All of it? It's really been too long, hasn't it, old friend? 10 years, no less. So, would you care to join me for a dance of my inimitable logic and reasoning? Nothing would please me more. What is this? We have but minutes until the vessel puts to sea. No games now. The time of the essence. Mr. Stroganov, allow me to remind you of your earlier claim. You told us that Jigoku left the ship some 2 hours ago. Duh! That is what I said! Sadly, that was a rather clumsy lie. You see, there is something in this room that quite clearly contradicts it. What? Ah, yes, of course. I see you've noticed it too, Mikotoba. Then please, do take the lead. What in this cabin shows the impossibility of Jigoku having disembarked 2 hours ago? Let's see what the last 3 years have done to your observational skills then, Mikotoba. It's been 10 years since we last did this, Sholmes, not 3. Why, of course it has, quite. Now, allow all the clues are here in this cabin for your eyes to see. But as I always say, you must not merely look, but observe. Observe and the answers will become clear. So, impress me. I think I can manage that. What shows the impossibility? Well, the impossibility would be the glass containing ice. Because if it's been 2 hours since you left, the ice would have melted by now.
That!
Oh my god, yes! Perhaps you should have cleared away that glass? How curious that the ice shouldn't have melted despite it being abandoned 2 hours ago. Ah! It would appear that the man was here in this very cabin until moments before our arrival. With this well-chilled glass in hand. Get your mind off the refreshment, Sholmes. One might even conclude that somebody informed him of our boarding. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Stroganov? But why would Seishida run from us? Before we consider that question, allow me to confirm one small matter. Would I be correct in saying that these first-class cabins on the SS Groose are the same ones in which you and Mr. Jigoku were accommodated on your voyage from Japan? Ah! That's right, they are. I was in the cabin next door, and Seishida was, yes, 50 days in this very cabin during our voyage. As I suspected, for you see, there are traces in this cabin of a dark secret that Mr. Jigoku had to hide. What traces? I know nothing about this. Ah, this is news to you, is it, Mr. Stroganov? Sholmes, what exactly are you getting at? As I said, there are traces in this cabin of some nefarious activity. Something that appears out of place, which I'm quite sure won't have escaped your notice. Something out of place in here. That's the key to this, Mikotoba. The remnants of the dark deed that took place in here are being masked by something quite incongruous. I must say, I didn't foresee ever doing this dance of deduction with you again, Mikotoba. No, quite, but life is full of unexpected twists and turns, as we well know. Now then, let's see if I can't uncover the truth here. Yes, you have the floor, my dear fellow. So, the remnants of the dark deed took place, I would think is the mark on the wall. Nope. I guess the rules of passage, because this had to be moved.
Take that!
There we go. I was on the right track, just on the wrong part. My god, yes! It's the rules of passage in this frame here. They're obviously out of place. The way they're hanging crooked on the wall, as if they were put there in a hurry. Yes, as I'm sure you've already concluded. That frame was originally over here. The shape and size are a perfect match. Duh! You are right. When did frame move? Hardly the most observant of crewmen, are you, Mr. Stroganov? I would think your captain's quite justified in having his reservations about your reliability. Gah! Oh dear, that really seemed to touch a nerve. So, Mikotoba, why don't you lift that frame off the wall? That looks like a bullet hole. What? What has been shooting walls? I see the projectile has been removed. Clearly, the careful occupant of this room has already disposed of it. Now then, Mr. Stroganov. I have the distinct impression that you're attempting to shield said occupant. I do not know what you are talking about. Why would I try to protect Eastern Stranger? So we're talking about the same man, I see. Good. I'm sure we can get to the bottom of this in no time, aren't you? Because there's some very noteworthy evidence that explains the reason why you're lying for the man. Yes, you've been told to keep this pretense as clearly shown by... I really don't know how to approach this one, Sholmes. My dear Mikotoba, simply keep first principles in mind. Study your subject from every angle, and I'm quite sure that you'll see it. In fact, I'd put a wager on it. Time to glare at the fellow from all sides? Well, I could certainly do that. Wad of banknotes. You are paid to! It's almost too obvious for words. Quite the universal language of the world. Money. And I'd wager that the Eastern fellow in question is Seishiro Jigoku, yes? Gah! So, I presume you realize what this means? There are clear signs that a crime has been committed in this cabin. And the way you're going, sir, you'll find yourself accused of being an accomplice. But... I believe you know, Mr. Stroganov. You know where Mr. Jigoku is hiding at this precise moment in time. As always, Mikotoba, in matters of deduction, the furtive glance is your unfaltering ally. Yes, I think you're onto something there, Sholmes. You've found the chink in this burly fellow's armor. We need only follow the man's gaze to know where our prey is hiding. The slightest flicker of the pupils, a minutely delayed blink. Nothing escapes my attention, even that which is barely perceptible. You could hardly call this barely perceptible, Sholmes. The man's turned his entire head. It's not exactly what you describe as a furtive glance, is it? It's almost too obvious. We shall let your tapping toes decide, my dear fellow. Only thing you need to maintain... Yeah, it's obviously the large trunk.
Take that!
You turned immediately to look at this large trunk, didn't you? The truth is, Seishiro Jigoku was unable to escape from the ship in time. And is, at this very moment, doing his best to stifle his breath inside this trunk. If he still has a breath to take, I fear he may be running dangerously low on air. I imagine he didn't count on us making a nuisance of ourselves for quite so long. I think it would be in everyone's best interest for us to open the trunk as quickly as possible. But how can we? Are you forgetting about the combination lock? We don't know the 7-digit code. The combination lock can't be opened from inside the trunk. Therefore, we must have been in arrangement for somebody to open it after our departure. Of course. In short, before Jigoku hid himself inside that trunk, he must have told somebody the 7-digit number from the lock. And I'm sure you can confirm, Mr. Stroganov. No! I know nothing about combination code! Don't move a muscle, my good Seaman. Huh? Now, Mikotoba, would you do the honors and open the trunk? How do you expect me? It's a 7-digit number, remember? Quickly now, we have little time. Very well animated lock, I'm just gonna say.
Take that!
That did it! It's open! You had to meddle, didn't you? Well, Eugen, you found me now. Seishiro. I was really hoping beyond hope not to find you here, you know. But you're not entirely unsurprised, I take it. No, quite. I just wish it were some other way. Well, are you ever going to introduce me? Ah, your reputation precedes you, Mr. Sholmes. I've read stories of many of your exploits. Excuse my manners, Sholmes. This is Mr. Jigoku, my old friend and traveling companion. The devil is in the details, Mikotoba. I believe you meant to say your old friend and traveling companion. He said that. Who made the cowardly decision to flee the country without a word to anyone when things turned sour. I see my reputation precedes me as well. What an honor. Well, Seishiro, are you going to explain all this? You know it all by now, I imagine. What you didn't know, of course, is that 3 days ago, on the night before arrival in Britain, an attempt was made on my life here on this very ship. By the Reaper of the Bailey? Yes, I've since heard. Because you were once prosecuted by the Reaper, weren't you? 10 years ago now, mind you. And I had no idea at the time what a dangerous individual he was. Anyway, we arrived in London to find the symposium was postponed until goodness knows when. It became all too apparent to me that I might very well be targeted again. So you decided to flee the capital without saying a word to me about it? I'm afraid so, yes, of course, I realize now that I really ought to have confided in you. It's somewhat surprising, I must say. What is? Well, first-class cabins aboard luxury steamships are in very short supply. It's more than a little hard to believe that this one just happened to be available. So says the protagonist of some colorful short stories. Well, I don't care for your opinion. The cabin did just happen to be available, so I purchased a ticket, and here I am. I've just seen for myself the obvious remnants of that incident in this cabin. So you'd already purchased your return ticket before we even docked in Dover, had you? To prevent anyone else taking this cabin and seeing the evidence? Is that it? Eugen, I have nothing to say to you. Well, in a mere 5 minutes, this ship will set off in its onward voyage and not make port again until Italy. I'm afraid we must insist that you disembark with us at once. You have no jurisdiction over my movements. We have this, Seishiro. Take it. What is it? It's a subpoena from the Old Bailey. You're a man of the law. You know what the ramifications of ignoring a document like this from the British courts would be. You came prepared then, Eugen. Come on, let's go. One moment. What is it, Sholmes? Inside Mr. Jigoku's trunk. I found this rather fascinating trinket. What is that, Seishiro? I can't help you, I'm afraid. Some small component from something. But what? I have no idea. By the look on his face, I think he genuinely doesn't know. Well, let us pocket it as a small souvenir of our brief sojourn in France. The small component has been entered into the court record. Well, young Naruhodo, I think we've done as much as we can, I'm afraid. The rest will be on the shoulders of you and your assistant. Kazuma Asugi, I know you, and I know you wouldn't lie, but still, there's no doubt that you're holding something back. You know more than you're saying. During the past 30 minutes while this court was adjourned, all possible efforts were expended. But sadly, Mr. Jigoku's whereabouts could not be ascertained. We must accept the unfortunate conclusion that the Reaper has already done the deed. There's no sense in wasting any more of this court's time. The prosecution calls for an immediate verdict.
Objection!
No, the trial cannot end now. You're a Japanese man, Ryunosuke. You should know when to lay down your sword. You took my sword! Well, technically I took your sword, but shut up. And you should know never to presume when the battle's won. The court has already been presented with all the evidence and heard all relevant testimony. And there can only be one conclusion, that the accused is guilty. All relevant testimony, far from it. There's still a crucial witness from whom the court is yet to hear a single word of testimony. In that case, call your witness to the stand at once, counsel. Yes, my lord. Tomorrow, if possible. The witness is already on his way and scheduled to arrive tomorrow. Who on earth is this crucial witness? Seishiro Jigoku. The very man allegedly murdered by the Reaper. Judge Jigoku, you found him? But the investigation of every policing resource in the capital suggests Jigoku is already dead. How in the name of God did you find the man? He was located in France during the recess, at the port of Dunkirk. Thanks to one of Mr. Herlock Sholmes' famous deductions. Herlock Sholmes. Inspector Gregson almost certainly met with Mr. Jigoku on the night of his death. Because along with Prosecutor Atsugi, Gregson was on a mission to assassinate the man. Which means that Seishiro Jigoku is the sole witness who can clarify exactly what happened aboard the SS Groose on the 31st October. Well, it would appear that it's too soon to move to education at this point. The prosecution concurs. The court must hear Mr. Jigoku's testimony. No judgment should be passed until all testimony has been considered. In that case, I hereby call the end of today's proceedings. Court will reconvene at the same hour tomorrow. No objections from either side? No, my lord. No objections, my lord. We live to fight another day by the skin of our teeth.